What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again, and boy, was that just a all-around, just a ridiculous, terrible mess, that whole game. Let's talk about the ridiculously big elephant in the room. That would be everything that has to do with Cashman Field right now. I was trying to be, positive, uplifting. I was trying to look at this from the positive side of things. Yeah, I knew that the field didn't look the greatest when they showed, that the process of what the field looked like. And I figured that they were going to get some more turf in there. They were going to build some more things around there, and they didn't. I mean, it literally looked like they were playing at the field in the movie The Sandlot. I mean, that really is what it looked like. They had still dead grass there, and you could definitely tell that they've really been prepping that field really for, the upcoming soccer season, and that with it. It didn't look good. And then you look into the few stands that they had there, and there was literally nobody there. I think that might be worse than the lowest USFL games. I mean, I don't know. You USFL and XFL guys can fight over that one. I'm sorry I started that fight. But it was just atrocious. Things did not look good. It was like, that was just kind of like to set the stage. The second thing is like all of the camera angles. I hated that from behind looking, forward at everything angle. You can't see nothing with that. I can't see what's really happening on the offensive line. I can't really see what's going on downfield. And as the ball got further downfield, you couldn't see anything. Not to mention that, when they actually got to a decent view, that there's rain all over the lens. It's smudged. It's clouded. It's clouding up. It's just... You can't tell what it is. And the thing that probably ticks me off even more than that is that when they go to show, the dueling coordinator view, that picture's perfect. I'm like, take the cameras off those dudes. I could care less about seeing them or hearing them, and I just want to see what's happening on the field. Give me what's going on the field. But for whatever reason, that's what we got. It was frustrating to watch. You can tell the guys were frustrated in the first quarter, not even until midway through the second quarter did they get the communication systems figured out. The coaches were frustrated. You could tell that this officiating crew was a younger crew for this game. It just all around everything was a mess. Like, the field's a mess, and they're telling them that they don't have any problem with feeding. I'm like, I just watched both kickers from both teams just biff. I mean, one on a kickoff and the other one on a field goal. I have no clue why the Vipers went for a field goal there. You saw what happened with the other kicker. Why in the world you're going to kick the ball? But hey, they did, and that's with it. I mean, it just goes with the territory. It was just a mess of a game, and it was like when they started the game, you're hoping that maybe at least the saving grace was that it wasn't going to rain, but it rained, and it made them tearing up that field even worse. I mean, it was bad. The field was bad. I feel bad for the Vipers playing throughout the season. They're going to have to play there unless they figure out how to get some decent turf in there, put some new turf down, which I doubt they've got the money to really put into the budget for that. It's gonna be a terrible home field advantage, and especially because it doesn't really go with their style of play, running that type of thing in the rain like they had to it was not conducive to them. So let's go ahead and let's start breaking down this game. Really, this game was just a mess. It was, like I said, everything was kind of a disaster, and it started off that way. Really, the way that the Vipers scored was Teamu got sacked, fumbled the ball, and then, they were able to, from like the 2-yard line, to get that, punch that ball into the end zone, and that was their touchdown, and that was their points. They did not score any other points the rest of the game. That's just the way that it was for them. Now, going through here, let's look at some of these stats. We'll go ahead and start with the Vipers. The Vipers, the one the one thing that I think is a bright note here is that Brent Huntley's only been with the team 2 weeks, and he did a fantastic job. There's such a difference with him in there than Luis Perez, and nothing against Luis Perez. I mean, he was 1 for 5. You felt kind of bad for him. He started the game. At least he got that nod as the start. But from going forward, Huntley's the guy for me. I think when they can actually get on a field where they can actually do something besides slip and fall, I think that he is going to be a really nice option for them to be able to get it out to their playmakers. I thought that him coming in and leading this team the way that he did, I thought that was done very well. Listen, Dwayne Taylor's got to figure out how to get that play into him quicker. He needs to make his decisions quicker with some of these things. And I know it was frustrating. There was a lot of things happening. And you could tell that there was just that disconnect between the two of them getting the play in and getting everything set. It's not completely there yet. I think by week 4, these guys are going to be clicking and this thing's going to be humming, and it'll be kind of a fun thing to watch. Moving on to the rushing. Actually thought it wasn't too bad in this scenario. I think they got, Rod Smith back into the game, which is what I thought that they needed to do in this game. But really outside of that, they couldn't complete drives. They couldn't finish drives. And when they got in, where they needed to, they fumbled the ball. They missed field goals. They had an opportunity here to at least add on to their lead throughout the game, but they never did. And, I think that Hundley is a guy that could have, I think he ran the ball, but I think if they would have done a little bit more of that read option and kept, hammering some of that home, I think that they could have done kind of what DC did to them. But by the time they started doing anything, it was really just kind of too late. Lovett did all right. I feel like this was a game where, because of the wind, because of everything that was happening in the field, they just couldn't use their firepower that they have. They couldn't use Badet. They couldn't use Bryant. Sweeting only got a couple catches. They had to use Lovett out of the backfield. And so it really was kind of it wasn't a good experience for them all the way around. And, it was, a lot of it has to do with the field, but listen, both teams have to play in that mess, and you both have to figure out what you need to do in that mess. On defense, I thought that they had some good points up until they started running the quarterback read option in DC, and they had no. It's almost like they didn't know what to do with it. And part of it is when you're playing on a wet field like that, it's hard to cut. It's hard to make those decisions. It's really hard to get an advantage on somebody who knows what they're going to do and react. And, they, unfortunately, that's what happened. But I thought, starting off, they played really well the first half, and the defenders adjusted. And unfortunately, they weren't able to adjust to the adjustments. And that's what happened with them. But, you had you had the big fumble in the very first quarter and that, but I think that they played solid defense for the first half. The second half, I think fatigue was starting to set in, and I think also too with those long drives, and I think also too it's just the weather and not being prepared to stop that Wildcat style offense. It just ate them alive, and that's kind of what happened with them. Now, moving on to the defenders here, and really to the defenders, I was kind of surprised with things. So Jordan Teamu, it really wasn't bad, and actually he made a decision. He was going to go back to today. He finally decided he was going to go back to 2020 Jordan Teamu and just tuck that ball and just run the ball. And I think that he did a fantastic job when he had that opportunity to do that. But this win gave him no opportunity to use his arm, so his arm became pretty much, in a sense, useless in this game. And so it took really his ability out of the game. So you bring in D'Eriq King and just let him go through and run the ball. And listen, this is not taking anything away from him. The announcers are like, well, is this his time to shine, D'Eriq King? No. This is a one-thing game situation here. This is kind of, you're looking at it as, okay, this is his, opportunity. This is what he's perfect for. Let's let him come in. Let's let him take it and run with it and go. And he did. He did a good job with it. Smith did a good job. Armstead, they all did a really good job of playing their part and just running the snot out of the ball with having, a total of, I think it was like 232. This is saying 229 here. Like I said before, it's really all over the board with their stats stuff, trying to get the most latest up-to-date stuff. They pretty much abandoned the pass in, halfway through the third quarter, which was smart of them to do, and just pound the run, and that's really what won them the game. The Vipers, unfortunately, let themselves get behind and never really could be able to catch back up, and they had to try to pass the ball, and that just wasn't going to happen in this type of an atmosphere. So, looking at that, I think the DC defenders did what they needed to do. And, the crazy thing is, you look at it there, yeah, they had 3 fumbles, but it didn't really amount to anything because the Vipers couldn't capitalize on those. So, I mean, this really was kind of the opposite when you think about it, to the turnover. We've seen turnovers really hurt teams, and this game, it was so bad that it didn't. And, I think their defense did a decent job. They played all right. They played like they needed to play. And, it just, listen, both teams had to play in this, and I'm not making an excuse for either one of the teams here. I'm just saying that this thing was just it was just a mess. It was a poor presentation. It was the product put in front of us was it was just all subpar. They did the people that were running things did the best that they could with it, but it was just dismal all the way around. It was not what the XFL wanted. If this is what the XFL wanted to stay away from, is to really look, minor league, to look like that and to have that look. And that's what this game was. It was just sloppy. It was a mess. It wasn't clean cut. And when you're trying to present people with the product that you have, you really don't want this to happen. We'll see what happens, when we come back for their second home game here into Vegas. We'll see if maybe they can get some more fans there. We'll see if maybe they can, fix that field, spruce things up to make it look nicer so that like half of, behind everything isn't dirt. I don't know. We'll see. It wasn't a very good showing all in all for the XFL. Yeah, well, the game was still winnable even into the mid fourth quarter. So you had that. Thankfully, this game, it was over in less than 3 hours. It was misery to kind of sit there and watch this thing. I mean, it's kind of, you were wondering what was going to happen next with the weather, what debacle was going to happen after that. But really, this was just, I mean, I don't know what more I can say about it. This is not what the XFL wanted. Thankfully, it was over in less than 3 hours. So before 10 o'clock, it was done so that we could be kind of done with it and, get on with our Saturday evening and, get on into Sunday with it. Listen, Defenders 2-0. That's great for you. The Vipers, again, this is kind of one of those things too, where I've kind of said it before. I was kind of worried that this might spiral them. The way that, their kind of loss last week, and to see kind of what would happen. And they've got 2 losses here, but I still think that this is not a team that is going to be they're just not a very good team, 0-2 team, so they're going to be an easy win. They're not going to be an easy win for anybody. And I think that as they get things going, I think that, especially once they get Hundley a little bit more into this thing, I think that he's going to be a kind of a difference maker. Kind of reminds me of back in 2020, LA, the Wildcats, with Josh Johnson was like all of a sudden, like their last game, it just like clicked, and he and the wide receivers, and they just poured it on, and then the league stops. I don't think the league is going to stop in this situation, but I think that it's going to take a couple weeks, and then you're just going to see it like click, and you're like, where was this? Because I think that he's that talented, and you could see the difference between him and Luis Perez on the field. I mean, just the way that he commanded things and did things, it's just that you can't, just with all the factors that were happening, you can't overcome that in one night. So there are my thoughts. I'm looking forward to the two games on Sunday. Hopefully they're better than this game was. This game didn't go the way I thought it would. It kind of surprised me that way, but it was just an utter mess. As always, I want to know your thoughts down in the comment section. We'll continue the conversation on down there. All right, listen, guys, I know that you're busy, and I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night. Bye.